Hey everyone, welcome to our new YouTube series. I'm Adam, this is Haley, and we are going to do a quick review of some of our races that we've done, both as a runner and as a crew member. And the first one that we wanted to do today, that we actually did this past weekend, was the Twisted Branch 100K. It was a 100K up in the Finger Lakes in New York, so it was a pretty good time. I managed to finish that race in just over 15 hours. Beautiful race, beautiful course. Everything was put on just spectacularly. Aid stations were great. But the reason why I wanted to do these videos is really to give an idea of what the race is like, and also not just from a runner's perspective, but from a crew perspective, because we feel like that there's not a lot of resources out there, especially for the crew members. So, and we'll break this up into sections as well. So I guess let's start with the most important part, and we'll talk about the crewing situation. So Haley here has been my designated crew for the last 4 years. 5 years.
Almost, yeah.
So how would you say this race was crew-wise? What are some notable pieces of information that you think people would like to know when they're coming into this race and they have a racer that they are crewing for?
The most notable thing is probably that the actual directions in the map was, for the most part, correct. A lot of these races, unfortunately, it is not either just wrong entirely, or it's just not accurate, unfortunately, or it's just a little bit off, which is fine during the day because it's a lot easier to see, but in the middle of the night, it really, really sucks when something's off, because a lot of times there's no service in these things either, so there would be no way to find your way there with the help of a GPS. It's all a little old-fashioned when there's no service, so having a map is definitely a win.
And we actually kept it because we wanted to show it off in this video. They actually gave you like a map. Put that down. They actually gave you a map that shows you where all the aid stations are and the directions to get there, the distance it takes to drive there, as well as like your runner, and then the back has the rest of the race on it. Amazing. Every race should do this. Every race that doesn't do this from now on gets a little bit of a dock in my book.
Yeah.
Because like Haley was saying, most of these races are pretty remote, so it's very easy to not have service. So the fact that they gave us something like this is great. And it's like not flimsy paper. It's the dog. But it's not flimsy paper. It's like this thicker bit of cardboard. So it was easy to not lose it as well. And they were giving out tons of them at the beginning of the race. So you could take
multiple.
One. Mm-hmm.
So we didn't, but I mean, if you need to take more than one, if you have more than one person throughout the race, it's really, really, really nice for that. And it's all very clearly labeled. What is wrong with
Luna? That's all right.
It's very clearly labeled on it, which I am directionally challenged. So when they do that for me, it's really, really helpful. If you're somebody who's not that way, you might not care as much, but I feel like most people now they need a little extra help on the maps, especially when you're not using a GPS one. That's all you've ever used. So
yeah, and this was also in a pretty populated,
more
populated area than most that we do.
Yeah, you went through towns. There was gas available if you needed it. There was, obviously with that you could stop in and get a Gatorade for yourself or for your crew, for your team. There's also restaurants that I stopped through. I was able to stop and get breakfast. Most of these races, this one was a 100K, so the largest span in time that I was waiting for him was about 3 hours throughout the entire race, maybe 2.5. So there wasn't a ton of time to stop and get food and to go way out of your way to do so. So the fact that it was a lot that was on the way was really, really helpful, especially when we got up at 2:30 in the morning to be there.
Yeah, it was an early start for the race. I would say that's probably the worst part about the race was it was a 4 a.m. start. You can camp at the race, which is pretty nice because you can literally just like wake up at probably like 3:15, I would say is the latest I would probably get up.
The only thing I would say about that though is if you do that, there's a lot of people that are already there. So if you're a light sleeper, you're sleeping in a tent, there's no sound barrier between that. So if you're somebody like me, I probably would have been awake with the first person that showed up.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone was partying that night, so I would assume everyone else was probably going to bed early, but there isn't anything there to really mitigate any of the sound. So that is something to think about.
If somebody got there, say at 2 a.m. to get everything set up for the runners when they got there, unfortunately, if I was close enough to it, I personally would have been awake during that time. So that is something to keep in mind.
Yeah, I mean, it is nice that they provide that, because we stayed in a hotel about 30 minutes north, so we had to get up around 2:30, which is very early. That's the earliest I've ever had to get up for a race before. That was like a reasonable drive too.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely keep that in mind. So we brought camping stuff, and we stayed in a hotel because I wasn't sure if we were going to camp or not. But definitely a good option if you're somebody who wants to try and maximize her sleep, and you sleep well in the tents. So
that is also something to keep in mind, though, for you as well. Like he said, if you sleep well in tents and stuff like that, it's probably 100% worth it. But if you're somebody who I have a problem sleeping in a tent, it might not be a good idea for you.
Yeah. Was there anything else noteworthy crew-wise that you think is helpful? I know there was one section that you didn't have any cell phone reception.
There was only one spot in the whole entire race that I did not have cell phone reception for, and it really wasn't that big of a deal because, one, it was in the middle of the day, so it was daylight, not that big of a deal. I was able to see a little bit better actually where I was supposed to be going, but also the race had signs, so there was an intersection where on the map it looked like it was all the way up and to the left, but there were signs directing you to the right, which is where the aid station actually went. So they did a really good job of actually labeling that as well. So even when I didn't have cell service and my GPS probably would have taken me the correct direction, because I didn't have that and I was going off of anything else, I would have made a wrong turn if there was not the signs that they put out there. But they thought ahead of that and they did it. So for that, they get pretty much a 10 out of 10 on that front for me.
Yeah, I would say this is one of the better races. If you're a crew member, besides that early wake up, one of the better ones.
This is by far the best race that he's done that has clear directions. That and the Mid-State Massive in Massachusetts was pretty clear as far as directions and stuff goes as well. But this was hands down had one of the best experiences crewing for this one. Not only is there cell service most of the time, but also there's restaurants, there's gas stations. You're not just completely to whatever you packed. We tend to focus a little bit more on you, and then I forget to pack myself a sandwich. So it's really nice that I had that ability to do that. Also, the actual aid stations themselves had a pretty large area where we could take a chair and hang out for a while. We've done races before where the aid stations are pretty tightly packed in there, and I had to either stand with my gear or with his gear while I was waiting for him, or there was barely any room for my chair, or we were really close to a road or something along those lines. Almost every single place where they put an aid station, there was a ton of parking, and it wasn't a far walk once you did park for the most time. You did have to go up a hill at one point. So if you're carrying a ton of gear, a wagon is probably really helpful for that.
What aid station was that at?
That was the first one for... that was the first one that you could bring a pacer with you.
Okay, yeah. And there's only 2 spots, too, you can bring pacers with you.
Yeah.
There's only 2 aid stations that pacers are allowed. It's the very last one before the finish, that last 10K. And then there was one right around like 35, 38 miles.
I think it was, you could
like
either
that.
choose to run 18 miles or 5.5.
Yeah, and then you could also make it longer, so you could do the 5.5, and you could do the 18 before that, too. So just get over that 20. So if you want to have a really long time with a pacer, you can. That's something else I think we want to touch on too, is the pacer situation. Mm-hmm. Pacers were only 2 spots for the 100K, which is pretty normal for 100Ks. You typically don't get a lot of distance with a pacer for the shorter races. But for this race, they did it better in some ways, because you didn't have to sign up as a pacer before the race. You just got to sign up as a pacer and do all the waivers and sign everything that you needed to right at the aid station that you were going to start pacing your runner at. So that's what my pacer did, and didn't seem to have any issues. And then the aid stations, too, if you're a pacer, are very well stocked. You're allowed to use them, so always a great time. But I don't think there's any races that tell you that you can't use the aid stations as a pacer. So
no, and I think, honestly, if I had been like, I forgot water or something like that, they would have given it to me too. Everybody was super friendly. Everybody was super helpful. I didn't come across a single person the entire time where they were not as helpful as humanly possible. I mean, everybody was so friendly, so kind. I met the director of the race at one point, and he was just, you could tell he really, really cared. The race as a whole, for me, as a crew member, was was definitely a 10 out of 10. I 100% would be looking forward to that race again.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't think we have anything else for crew, right?
Mm-mm.
So I think we'll just go. I'll do like a quick overview of what the race was like. It was up in New York, so it's like a very East Coast kind of race. A lot of roots, a lot of rocks, a lot of very technical terrain. It was just under, at least for me, 10,000 feet of elevation, and it was just over the 64 miles. It was closer to 67 for me. I also made a wrong turn, so it's probably going to be closer to 66. Course is really well marked. Just make sure you're paying attention. They have these little orange flags that they put out, so this way you can see where you're going. They also send out videos beforehand that you can watch. That kind of gives you a pretty in-depth overview of everything that they
talk about the
do.
crew stuff with that as well, which is helpful.
Mm-hmm. That's also another thing to note, that they are they do put out like a video specifically for crew information, which is really cool because you don't see that very often either. And then other than that, I'm trying to think of anything else for the race. It is a pretty generous cutoff, I would say. 20 hours for 100K. That's typically the weather's pretty nice. This year was unusually hot. It was almost 90 degrees plus the humidity, so it was a little warm. But it wasn't impossible. I didn't think it was really that challenging compared to some of the other ones. It's pretty much almost completely shaded. There's only really one section. It's a pretty long section too. It's one 7-mile section. That's the second longest in the race. That's like 75% unshaded. And that was probably the biggest hurdle for most people, I would say. Other than that, there were a few big climbs in there, but nothing that, at least I felt like, was anything too ridiculous. You're going to see one really steep one and one big one right at the end, and then you're going to see one more at around mile 20. Those are really your two big kickers. And then there was one surprise one right at the end of a smaller section. It was right after that really sunny section. So it's a 7-mile section. It's completely in the sun pretty much. And then there's a 4.5 or 4.9 mile section. Right at the end of that, going up to the aid station, there's a big hill. And I was running dry on that. So it was a little bit sketchy there, but it was fun. It was a fun time. And then aid stations, fantastic. I mean, they're stocked. I mean, anything that you could have ever wanted, they had there pretty much. They were making hot food for people. I mean, it was hot, so not a lot of people ate it, but they had the quesadillas, the grilled cheese sandwiches.
Yep. They had ice chests.
Oh, yeah. The ice chests were huge because it was so warm out, just unusually hot for the area. One thing, too, that did stink about this race, but it wasn't the race's fault, was there hasn't been a lot of rain up there. And typically, at least what I've heard from other people who have done it, was that there's beautiful streams that are running and there's like small waterfalls and stuff, completely dry. There was one stream the entire race that had water, everything else was bone dry. And I could tell too, I was like, oh, this is definitely a stream, but there is not a lick of water in here. So that would be something I would like to see again next year, just to see streams of water.
Hopefully it rains.
Yeah, because it's been a month, I think they said. It's been a month since it's rained up there. So that was not.
It was dusty too.
Yeah, it was very dusty, and because it hadn't rained, the ground was hard. So I wore trail shoes for the entire thing. I wore the Hoka Speed Goats, but if I were to go back and do it again, I probably would have worn tennis shoes. But I think in any other normal year, I think trail shoes would probably be my recommendation. But I don't know. I only did it in trail shoes, so I don't know if I would take that too heavy.
They gave you some really good stuff at the beginning and the end, too.
Yeah, and I think that's what we'll do here, just to kind of finish it off. We're just going to go through the swag that they gave us for the race. So this, you get the Twisted Branch long sleeve. This is a Patagonia shirt, too, so it's really nice. This stuff, too, might change. So if you're watching this year or two down the line, or even for next year, not all of this stuff might be the same, but just kind of give you an idea of what you can get. They gave us this little like reusable tote bag that says Twisted Branch on it as well. It's really cool. And then this was huge. They gave us this little bandana. This is not like Twisted Branch branded, but they did give it to you. But it's this little Crush the Trail like bandana, and you fill it with ice. So there's like a little pocket on the
there's a pad in the base of it as well, so it actually keeps the ice from sitting directly on your skin for the most part.
Yeah, so there's a little pocket here. You fill it with ice, and then down here it's all insulated, so it's a
Yeah.
little bit thicker there. So when it's sitting on you, like Haley said, it's not like freezing.
Mm-hmm.
They filled it up pretty heavy for me, so like it was all the way up to here. When I had it like right here on my neck, I was like, I'm gonna freeze to death.
The
And
other
then
thing too with the aid stations with that is most of the time they're really, really helpful. When you go to the aid stations, I have what he needs that I've brought with me, but for the most part, they're really helpful. There have been some races that we've done that they're not maybe the most responsive. Like I sit there and fill up his thing or fill up all of his water bottles and stuff. This one I had like, when he would come in, there'd be like 4 people that would take water bottles out of my hand, take the bandana off of him before I even had the chance to do it, would bring him food before I even had the opportunity. I mean, he almost didn't need me, like, for the entirety of the whole thing. And especially with these bandanas, they had, some of the races really grossed me out because the same ice that they use to fill up some water bottles, they're also just scooping their hand in and putting it down
care.
people's shirts.
It doesn't
which
matter to me.
I know doesn't bother the runners, but as a crew member, I see that and it makes me a little nauseous. So, because I know there's probably a lot of people sweat in that thing. But for this, they had really clean scoops every single time. So you could eat the ice that was in the bucket or they could use it specifically just for this. So that was also...
Yeah, this was really cool. This was huge. I used it during the race as
Yeah.
well, which was really
Yeah.
nice. And then my mom loved it so much, she bought a bunch for like the whole family. And when
For the beach.
everyone else
Yeah.
isn't even a runner, so.
Yep.
And then you can pick out a sticker. This is the one that I picked out. There were 3 or 4 different options, so I just picked one. I didn't want to get greedy, but there were a bunch of different ones you could pick out, so those were all really cool. And they gave us a pair of these Darn Tough socks, so I'll unfold them here. But these are the ones that they gave me. This is the color and stuff. They had a bunch of different colors there, so you could have picked those too. They made a big hubbub too. They were like, "Do not forget your socks." So I guess people must be forgetting their socks when they do this race. So
I think they're a sponsor, so they assume that everybody's going to take one. So,
yeah, they were a sponsor. There was a little at the start of the race. There was like a little like convention area almost. It was really small, like on like a patio of a deck. And
Yeah,
there
it
were
was
like
a vendor
5 or
spotlight.
6 vendors there that had a bunch of stuff. There was Nathan was there with selling vests and bottles, and Darn Tough was there with their socks, and then a few of the local conservation places and stuff like that were all there as well.
Yeah,
and
I mean, they also had
this
some
place
local
was here,
small
too.
businesses, it looks like, too.
Yeah, so they gave us this too. This is like Twisted Branch. It's like our little coffee that they gave us here. I don't know if you can see it. And then it has, this is the brand too. So this Tambark City Roasters up in Wellerville in New York. We don't have a coffee machine, so I'm not sure what we're going to do with it, but it was really nice that they gave it to us. It was awesome. So we'll find a way to, roast this and, get a...
And brew it, yeah.
It's got 2 servings in it, so pretty cool. But that was a nice thing too that they gave us, and they were there at the race as well. And then when you finish the race, you get a finisher mug. So it was really different. I'd never seen a race do this other than races like the Moab, like the 240. They do this as well, where there's like a line of all the different buckles at Moab, and you get to pick one. I've never done this race, but there's just the videos. This is the same thing with mugs and cups. So they have like a entire table that's filled with like dozens of different mugs and cups that all look different than this. They're all different shapes and sizes, and you get to pick whichever one you want, and then you get to take it home once you finish. So really cool, really awesome. Just like really cool. It was just a really different. I'm always gonna give races that don't give you a T-shirt or like a regular medal a little bit of a bump, because when you do enough of these, you have so many T-shirts and so many medals. It's like, who needs another one? Buckles are different though. I love buckles, so I can't get enough of those.
So overall, what would you rate the race?
I'd probably give it like a mid to high, like a low to mid 9. It was a really great race. I haven't done too many 100Ks. The only other 100K I've done is the Ironstone, which was an absolute sufferfest. If you're looking to suffer and just truly experience some terribleness, do that one. But this was a great race. The elevation wasn't too bad. The temperature, it's been pretty hot in Maryland this year where we live, so it's been, pretty, I feel like I'm pretty conditioned for it. Train was good. Everything was great. Everything was set up fantastically. So I would definitely do this race again.
Yeah, I would give it, on my end, I would give it a 10 out of 10. The area itself is also gorgeous. So, for me, I got to sightsee a little bit while I was there.
Yeah, it was really pretty. Being able to be at the Finger Lakes as well was really nice. And you start at Lake Canandaigua, finish at Lake Cayuga and Hammondsport. So, you finish there, you can get in the lake and stuff like that too afterwards. Pretty cool. It's a little rocky there, but if you're tired enough and you want to rinse off, that's probably the place to do it.
Something else to add too is, I might be different, it might fall on a different weekend, but Hammondsport had a full farmer's market as well. While I was driving through it, there was a full-blown farmer's market downtown. I didn't get a chance to stop, but I heard a lot of the other crew members who had a little extra time. My runner was nice and speedy, so I didn't have a ton of time in between. But some of the other crew members there did mention, I have a couple of hours before I'm gonna see him again. I'm gonna go to the farmer's market. So I didn't have time to do it, but it looked really cute. I did accidentally drive through the entire middle of the farmer's market though, so I got to see it.
Yeah, and there were only 5 aid stations you saw me at?
Yeah.
The whole race, yeah, it's only 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, but only 5
then
aid
the finish
stations
line,
too
yeah.
in the finish. So
The start and finish.
not a lot of aid stations, but because the race is pretty condensed and they're not too spread out, it doesn't take too long to see your runner and see your crew. But other than that, I think that's all we have for the Twisted Branch. Great race, definitely recommend it. We are probably going to do some more videos like this, just for more races that we have that we're going to do. We'll do a mix of some of the longer ones, like the ultras, and then we do OCRs as well, so we'll throw those in too. And then maybe we've done a lot of races in the past together, so maybe we'll throw in some stuff from the past to kind of give people
races we're not going to do again.
Yeah, races we won't do again, races that we did, that I have done, that I haven't done again, that I would love to, just to kind of give people a recap. But a lot of races change all the time, so the information that we might be giving you right now might not be accurate in a few years. So just keep that in mind whenever you're looking at this kind of video, and hope you got some information out of this. Hopefully it was helpful for you. And thank you all for watching.
Bye.